Teacher Daisy, and I'm going to be discussing about the teacher and the curriculum. Let me just turn off the camera so that I would not cover the presentation. So our coverage would be for Chapter 1, Teacher is a knower of curriculum. That would include the definition, nature, and scope of curriculum, foundations of curriculum development, elements and types of curriculum, and curriculum development models and processes. As for the Chapter 2 or Unit 2, we have the teacher as a curriculum designer, curriculum design and development models, principles and dimensions of curriculum design, and approaches to curriculum design and curriculum mapping. So first, we will discuss teacher as a knower of curriculum, and that would include the definition, the nature and scope of curriculum, foundations of curriculum development, elements and types of curriculum, and curriculum development models and processes. So we will encounter the question as to what is curriculum. So curriculum comes from the Latin word currere, referring to the oval track upon which a Roman chariots raced. And as explained by Tanner, 1980, curriculum is a planned and guided set of learning experiences and intended outcomes formulated through the systematic reconstruction of knowledge and experiences under the auspices of the school for the learner's continuous and willful growth in personal social competence. And some educators mean curriculum as a syllabus, but for some, it is the overall things that happens inside the institution, such as the experiences, the learner's material, facilities, as well as the teachers and students. So those things make up the curriculum. Next, we have the curriculum's point of view. So we have two points of view, the traditional and progressive. First, we have the traditional. So what is curriculum's traditional point of view? So traditional points of view views curriculum as written documents. A written document or plan of action in accomplishing goals. So this would be a listing of school subjects, syllabi, course of study, and specific discipline or subject. So traditional point of view views curriculum that focuses on discipline itself and not the students. So next one, we have Robert Hutchins, which is one of the curricularists that has traditional point of view. So Robert Hutchins views curriculum as permanent studies where rules of grammar, reading, rhetoric, logic, and mathematics for basic education are emphasized. So the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, should be emphasized in basic education, while liberal education should be the emphasis in college. So Robert Hutchins emphasized the 3 R's, or the reading, writing, and arithmetic as the focus of the curriculum. Next, we have Arthur Bestor, which is also a traditionalist. He believed that the mission of the school should be intellectual training. Hence, curriculum should focus on the fundamental intellectual discipline of grammar, literature, and writing. It should include mathematics, science, history, and foreign language. So that is the point of view of Arthur Bestor. Next, we have Joseph Schwab. Joseph Schwab is a proponent of traditional point of view. Joseph Schwab thinks that the sole source of curriculum is discipline. He coined the word discipline as a ruling doctrine for curriculum development. Therefore, Joseph Schwab viewed curriculum as a field of study, and it should only consist of knowledge that comes from the disciplines, for example, linguistics, economics, chemistry, among others. Next, we have Philip Phoenix, another traditionalist that asserts curriculum should consist entirely of knowledge which comes from various disciplines. And the next one, we have the progressive point of view. So what is curriculum's progressive point of view? So a progressive curriculum is based on students' interest or the total learning experiences of the individuals. So progressive education focuses on experience-based learning. So teachers have themes and objectives, but they do not just design a course of study for their students. They design it with them, and they have to be prepared to welcome unexpected debtors. One example that has progressive points of view is John Dewey. Dewey believes that education is experiencing. Reflective thinking is a means that unifies curricular elements that are tested by application. So he argues that reflective thinking is important, and he views curriculum as the total learning experiences of the individual. He also believed that experiences is the best teacher, because when you experience something, you will hardly forget it, right? Next one, progressive point of view, is Hollis Caswell and Ken Campbell, that views curriculum as all experiences that children have under the guidance of teacher. So they viewed experiences in the classroom as planned and enacted by the teacher and learned by the students. Another progressivist points of view is Othniel Smith, William Stanley, and Harlan Shore in 1950, which define curriculum as a sequence of potential experiences set up in schools for the purpose of disciplining children and youth in group ways of thinking. Next, we have Colin Marsh and George Willis. They define curriculum as the experiences in classroom, which are planned and enacted by the teacher and also learned by the students. So in this definition, experience are done in the classrooms. Next, we have the philosophical foundation of curriculum. We have perennialism, progressivism, essentialism, and reconstructionism. So first is perennialism, which is a teacher-centered educational philosophy that focuses on everlasting ideas and universal truths. So perennialists are primarily concerned with the importance of mastery of the content and development of reasoning skills. Progressivists believe that individuality, progress, and change are fundamental to one's education, believing that people learn best from what they consider most relevant to their lives. So progressivists center their curricula on the needs, experiences, interests, and abilities of the students. And then we have essentialism, in which believe that children should learn the traditional basic subjects thoroughly. And then we have progressivism. Progressivists believe that education should focus on the whole child rather than on the content or the teacher. And last is reconstructionism, which emphasizes the addressing of social questions and a quest to create a better society and worldwide democracy. So Reconstructionism emphasizes the addressing of social questions and they focus on curriculum that highlights social reform as the aim of education. So those are the philosophical foundations of curriculum. Next we will discuss the historical foundation of curriculum. So first we have Franklin Bobbitt. Franklin Bobbitt played a leading role during the first 3 decades of the 20th century in establishing curriculum as a field of specialization within the discipline of education. So, Bobbitt started the curriculum development movement. He believed that curriculum is a science that emphasizes students' needs, and curriculum prepared learners for adult life, and that objectives and activities should group together when tasks are clarified. Next, we have Weber chart. The technical approach to curriculum development started with the work of Franklin Bobbitt and Weber charters in the early 20th century. So Weber charters, like Bobbitt, posited that curriculum is a science and emphasizes on students' needs. And he emphasized that objectives and activities should match the subject matter or content that relates to objectives. Next, we have William Kilpatrick. So William Kilpatrick popularized the project method and child-centered curriculum and proved most important to curriculum studies as an emblematic figure for progressive education curricula. He believed that curriculum are purposeful activities which are child-centered, and he also emphasized that the purpose of the curriculum is child development and growth. Next, we have Harold Rugg. Harold Rugg produced the first ever series of school textbooks from 1929 until the 1940s. And then Rugg is credited with remarking the social studies curriculum and developing the first set of school textbooks dedicated to social studies. He believed that curriculum should develop the whole child. It is child-centered and with statement of objectives and related learning activities. Curriculum should produce outcomes. He emphasized social studies and suggested that teacher plans curriculum in advance. Next, we have Hollis Caswell. Hollis Caswell sees curriculum as organized around social functions of themes, organized knowledge, and learners' interest. He believed that curriculum is a set of experiences that subject matter is developed around social functions and learners' interest. Next, we have Ralph Tyler. So Ralph Tyler is regarded as one of the foremost educators of the 20th century and is considered by many to be the grand old man of educational research. He is often associated with educational assessment and evaluation as well as curriculum theory and development. He believed that curriculum is a science and an extension of school's philosophy. It is based on students' needs and interests. He also emphasized that curriculum is always related to instruction and subject matter is organized in terms of knowledge, skills, and values. Next, we have Hilda Taba. Hilda Taba is a curriculum theorist, curriculum reformer, and teacher educator. She contributed to the theoretical and pedagogical foundations of concept development and critical thinking in social studies curriculum and helped to lay the foundations for diverse student populations. Next, we have Peter Oliva. So Peter Oliva is an author of numerous articles in education journals and several textbooks. He described how curriculum change is a cooperative endeavor. He believed that teachers and curriculum specialists constitute the professional core of planners, and that significant improvement is achieved through group activity. So that's Peter Oliva. Next thing we will be discussing are the founders of psychological curriculum on behaviorism. First, we have Ivan Pavlov. He is the father of classical conditioning theory, or the SR connectionism theory. Classical conditioning is learning through association. In simple terms, two stimuli are linked together to produce new learned response in a person or animal. He said that the key to learning in early years of life is to train individuals what you want them to become, and that SR theory is a foundation of learning practice called indoctrination. Next, we have Edward Lee Thorndike, another founder of psychological curriculum on behaviorism. He championed the connectionism theory, and he proposed the three laws of learning: law of readiness, exercise, and effect. And he emphasized that specific stimulus has specific response. Next, we have Robert Gagne, also a founder of psychological curriculum in behaviorism. He proposed the hierarchical learning theory that implies learning follows a hierarchy and that behavior is based on a prerequisite condition. He also introduced taking in the formulation of objectives. Next, we have Jean Piaget, another founder of psychological curriculum, but this time in cognitive or information processing theory. Piaget is best known for his research on children's cognitive development that has 4 stages, which is sensory motor stage, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational stage. Piaget studied the intellectual development of his own 3 children and created a theory that described the stages that children pass through in the development of intelligence and formal thought processes. Next, we have Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky's theories are cultural transmission and development that implies children could, as a result of their interaction with society, actually perform certain cognitive actions prior to arriving at developmental stage, and learning precedes development. He believed that pedagogy creates learning processes that leads to development, and that a child is an active agent in his or her educational processes. Next is Howard Gardner, that proposed the theory of multiple intelligences. This implies that humans have several ways of processing information, and these ways are relatively independent of one another. There are 8 intelligences that includes linguistic, logico-mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. So those are the works of Howard Gardner and their principles. Next one, we have Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is one of the cognitivists that founded the cognitive or information processing theory. He proposed the theory of emotional quotient and believed that emotion contains the power to affect action. Next, founder of psychological curriculum on humanistic psychology is Abraham Maslow. He proposed the theory of self-actualization and classic theory of human needs. That implies that a child whose basic needs are not met will not be interested in acquiring knowledge of the world, and he put importance to human emotions based on love and trust. He believed that a healthy and happy learner can accomplish, grow, and actualize his or her human self. Next one, we have Carl Rogers, also a founder of psychological curriculum. He proposed the theory non-directive and therapeutic learning. This theory implies that children's perceptions, which are highly individualistic, influence their learning and behavior in class. He believed that curriculum is concerned with process, not product, personal needs, not subject matter, psychological meaning, and not cognitive scores. Next is the social foundation of curriculum. So Alvin Toffler is one of the founder of the social curriculum. Alvin Toffler foresaw schools and students work creatively, collaboratively, and independent of their age. And he believed that knowledge should prepare students for the future. Suggested that in the future, parents might have the resources to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology, not in spite of it being homeschooled. Next, we will discuss the teacher as a curriculum designer. That would include curriculum design and development, models, principles and dimensions of curriculum design, and approaches to curriculum design and curriculum mapping. So we will encounter the term curriculum. So the question is, what is curriculum? Curriculum is defined as the totality of experience a child experiences in the school. It consists of a series of things that learners should learn and accomplish. So that is curriculum. Our curriculum is all the things that are inside the school, the materials, the experiences, the teachers, and the students. Next, we have the components of the curriculum. These are aims, goals, and objectives. Next is the content or subject matter, then experiences, and the last one is assessment or evaluation. So those are the components of curriculum. Next, you'll encounter the question as to what is an aim, and aims are broad descriptions of purposes or ends which are stated in general terms without criteria of achievement or mastery. Aim relates to educational aims and philosophy. Next is, what is goal? Goals are broad statements or intents to be accomplished. Data for the sources of school goals may include the learners, the society, and the fund of knowledge. Example of school goals are build a strong foundation of skills and concepts, and efficient and effective administration responsive to the needs of the university and community. So those are broad statements or intents to be accomplished. Next question, what is educational objectives? So, according to Benjamin Bloom, these are explicit formulation of the ways in which students are expected to be changed by educative process. And according to Robert Mager, In educational objectives are intent communicated by statement describing a proposed change in learners. Now we have 3 domains of objectives that Benjamin Bloom classified. These are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Cognitive is proposed by Bloom, while affective by Krathwohl, and psychomotor by Simpson. Each domain is composed of specific skills, attitudes, and values which are presented in hierarchy. Cognitive domain is the domain of thought processes that includes knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, while affective domain proposed by Krathwohl is domain of valuing and appreciating, and this includes receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. While psychomotor is the domain on the use of psychomotor attributes, and this includes perception, set, guided response, mechanism, complex, overt, adaptation, and origination. So those are the domains of objectives. Next, we will encounter the question as to what is content or subject matter. Content or subject matter is a compendium of facts, concepts, generalization, principles, and theories. So content is more than simply information to be learned in school. To some curriculum specialists, content or subject matter is another term for knowledge. Content selection is a very crucial stage in curriculum development. Next, we have criteria in selecting subject matter. First one is self-sufficiency, which is the prime guiding principle for content selection, helping learners to attain maximum self-sufficiency in learning, but in most economical manner. Next criteria is significance. We can say it is significant when content or subject matter will contribute to basic ideas, concepts, principles, and generalizations to achieve the overall aim of the curriculum. The third criteria is validity. It is the authenticity of the subject matter selected. Next one is interest. The student's interest should be considered and adjusted, taking into consideration maturity, prior experience, educational and social value of their interest, among others. And then the fifth one is utility, or the usefulness of the content or subject matter. Next is learnability, or the subject matter is within the range of the experiences of the learners. And the last one is feasibility, or the state of degree of being easily or conveniently done. And it would ask the question if it's possible to do so. So those are the criteria in selecting subject matter. Next, we have experiences in curriculum. So what are the experiences in curriculum? Different instructional strategies that provide experiences that enhance learning. So those are field viewing, conducting experiments, field trips, and other experiential learning will also form the experiences in the curriculum. And curriculum experiences are the core or the heart of the curriculum. Next, we have what are assessment or evaluation. So we have 3 types. The peer assessment, teacher assessment, and self-assessment. Self-assessment, in which students learn to monitor and evaluate their own learning. Peer assessment, in which students provide feedback on each other's learning. And the last one is teacher assessment, in which teacher prepares and administers tests and gives feedback on students' performance. This can either be formative or summative. Next are the types of curriculum according to Gladhorns. First, we have recommended or ideal. As the name itself implies, it is the recommended curriculum that come in the form of memoranda or policies, standards, and guidelines by the government agencies such as DepEd, and SHED, and other professional organizations. Next is written curriculum. This includes documents based on the recommended curriculum. They come in the form of course study, syllabi, modules, books, or instructional guides, among others. Next is the thought curriculum. These are the different planned activities which are put into action in the classroom. The other one is supported curriculum, which are the material resources such as textbooks, computers, audiovisual materials, laboratory equipment, and other materials that help in implementation of the thought curriculum and which should help achieve real and lifelong learning. Next is assess curriculum. This is a series of evaluations which are being done by the teachers to determine the extent of teaching or to tell if the students are progressing. The other one is the learned curriculum, which refers to the learning outcomes achieved by the students. And the last but not the least is the hidden curriculum. This is the unintended curriculum, which is not deliberately planned but may modify behavior or influence learning outcomes. So those are the types of curriculum which is according to Gladhorn 2000. Next, we will encounter the question, what is curriculum development? Curriculum development is defined as a planned, a purposeful, progressive, and a systematic process to create positive improvements in the educational system. So every time there are changes or developments happening around the world, the school curriculum are affected. There is a need to update them to address the society's needs. So curriculum is dynamic. So curriculum development includes a decision-making process which emphasizes that faculty members must conduct researches as a basis for making curricular decisions. Next is the phases of curriculum development. We have 4 phases. The curriculum planning, designing, implementing, and evaluating. First is curriculum planning, which is the first phase of the curriculum development process, which considers school vision, mission, and goals. The second is curriculum designing, which is the way curriculum is conceptualized to include the selection of content and organization of content, and learning experiences or activities, and the selection of assessment procedures and tools to measure desired learning outcomes. The third one is curriculum implementing or implementation, which is putting into action the plan which is based on the curriculum design in the classroom setting or the learning environment. And the last one is the curriculum evaluating or evaluation, which determines the extent to which the desired outcome has been achieved. This time, I will give you just an overview of the different models of curriculum. First, we have Haller's rational linear model. This presents a process of curriculum development that follows a sequential pattern starting from selecting objectives, selecting learning experiences, organizing learning experiences, and evaluation. So Tyler argued that to develop any curriculum, workers should respond to 4 basic questions, such as what educational purposes should the school seek to attain? What educational experiences are likely to attain these objectives? And how can these experiences be organized? And the last one, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained? So aside from the 4 questions, Tyler also identified 3 curriculum sources: society, students, and subject matter. Accordingly, curriculum workers need to study the sources carefully in order to develop a curriculum. He also pointed out the importance of philosophy of education and psychology of learning to screen the objectives that are included in the curriculum. Next, we have Taba's grassroots rational model. So Tab argued that curriculum development should follow a sequential and logical process. So these are 7 steps that should be followed when developing curriculum according to Taba's model. First is the diagnosis of needs. Second is the formulation of objectives. Third is the selection of content. Fourth is the organization of content. Fifth is the selection of learning experiences. Sixth is the organization of learning experiences. And the last one is the determination of what to evaluate and ways and means of doing it. So that's the grassroots rational model of Hilda Taba. Next is the standards-based curriculum development model. So this model was developed by Alan Gluthorn, and Gluthorn identified 3 phases to be followed in developing standard-based curriculum, which are develop standard, develop benchmark, and develop products. This model is rational descriptive, stressing on the development of standard as the first activity in curriculum development, and the use of benchmark to improve, refine, and validate curriculum standards is an equally good practice in curriculum development. This model extends itself up to the development of scope and sequence, which is important for planning instruction and deciding on specific contents and objectives. Another important feature of Gluthorn's model is its relevance and applicability in any educational institutions in developing curriculum standards for various courses. Next, we have the systematic design model. This model was developed by Robert Diamond, which has 2 phases: the project selection and design. The second one is the production, implementation, and evaluation, and contains a series of steps. So phase 1 begins by exploring the feasibility of the project and establishes the needs that are required for its success. It considers field and students' knowledge, needs, research, and priorities in order to establish goals and learning outcomes, and ultimately develops an ideal solution for which to focus on. The design of the project also considers factors specific to curriculum and courses in order to develop a clearer path to implementation. The phase 2 contains 7 steps to produce, implement, and evaluate the project. First is determine goals and outcomes of learning. Second is to develop instruments and procedures of evaluation. Third is choose formats of instruction. Fourth is assess and choose existing materials. And fifth is create and test new materials. Sixth is the direct implementation logistics. And 7 is implement, assess, and revise the product. So this model stands apart from others, though its comprehensiveness and focus on ideal solution established by creative thinking and strategies oriented on needs and goals, encompassing an approach based on students and learning. Next is Murray Print Model. So this model prescribes a sequential and logical approach to curriculum development to provide a useful and easy to understand process in developing curriculum. The first phase of Prince model recognizes the nature of curriculum workers involved in the development of the curriculum. The second phase in this model is the task of developing the curriculum. The procedure is cyclical, which begins with a situational analysis and continues with aims, goals, and objectives, content, learning activities, and instructional evaluation, and then continuing to situational analysis again. The third phase includes the actual application that incorporates three major activities: implementation of the curriculum, monitoring and feedback from the curriculum, and the provision of feedback data to the presage group. Next, we have Audrey-Nichols and Howard-Nichols model. So this model emphasizes cyclical nature of curriculum development. The inclusion of situational analysis as part of the model is a valuable principle in curriculum development. By starting with situational analysis, curriculum workers will be able to collect data and the needed information from various curriculum sources and influences that are prerequisite in formulating curriculum goals and objectives. This model also recognizes the influence of contributing disciplines such as philosophy, psychology, and sociology in developing the curriculum. These disciplines are useful in selecting the curriculum goals and objectives, content, learning experiences, and evaluation. Next, we have Wheeler's model, which undertakes situational analysis, whereby the context or situation in which curriculum decisions are to be taken is thoroughly studied. This helps curriculum developers take correct decisions, thus encouraging active participation of staffs in school-based curriculum. Aims, goals, and objectives covers all the experiences provided in the curriculum. Goals are tied to specific subjects or group of content within one curriculum, while objectives describe more specific outcomes as a result of lessons or instructions delivered at a classroom. Learning experiences is an activity which the learners engages in which results in his behavior. Then, selection of content. The content is what we teach. It must be related to validity, significance, utility, interest, and learnability. The former have clear objectives and aligned assessment strategies designed to test how well students have achieved the learning outcomes, and Wheeler model sets the school objectives as final steps in as well as the first. Next one is the Contextual Filters Model. This model presents a cyclical view of curriculum development. So after making course decisions, the planners can check it with content, consideration, and contextual filters. It describes the reality and how college faculty members design their courses. It involves content and contextual influences in course decision. So according to Stark and Latuca in 1997, content influences encompass faculty members' background and associated disciplinary and educational beliefs, while contextual influences refer to the influence outside the instructor's immediate control that cause adjustment in the course plan, such as student characteristic or instructional resources, while the course decision include the processes that are followed when deciding a course. So that is the contextual filters model. The next one, we have Walker's model. So this emphasizes the process of curriculum development. The ways of proceeding were not predetermined but negotiated and documented as stakeholders towards completing the task. Walker's model has three phases, which he termed platform, deliberation, and design. In platform phase, Walker suggested that curriculum workers bring with them their individual beliefs, knowledge, and values. In the deliberations phase, on the other hand, involves identifying with facts are needed for means and ends, generating alternatives and considering consequences of these alternatives. And the last is the curriculum design phase, which involves planning, decision-making, and actual development of the curriculum. The next one is Skillmix Model. So, Malcolm Skillmix has developed a model for school-based curriculum development based on his experiences in schools and teacher training institutions. The Skillmix model has 5 phases that include situational analysis, goal formation, program building, interpretation and implementation, and monitoring feedback, assessment, and reconstruction. So each phase is interrelated and follows a systematic sequence. Skillmix model includes a situational analysis that involves gathering data from school, society, and learners. The result of the situational analysis provides strong basis for making curricular decisions for all the succeeding phases of the curriculum development. Then we have Eisner artistic model. So Eisner outlined artistic approach in curriculum development. First is selecting the goals and objectives by engaging the participants. Second is selecting the content of the curriculum in which it considered the 3 sources of curriculum: the individuality, society, and subject matter. The next one is selecting learning opportunities to different types of students using varied sources and activities. Next is the organization of content areas. He contended that curriculum content should be organized and integrated in different ways, and then the mode of presentation and response. Eisner suggested that using different strategies and methods to engage the students in meaningful learning. And lastly, the evaluation procedure, which is not the final step of curriculum development, but rather it is something that pervades the entire curriculum development process. Then, next is the Provenance Model. So this model was developed to help curriculum workers in developing a curriculum that is relevant and appropriate to the Philippine context. We have curriculum sources, which are general factors that influence or affect curriculum. And decision-making in macro level. These are learner, society, and discipline. Curriculum sources are considered vital in conducting situational analysis, selection of goals and objectives, and development of curriculum standards. We also have curriculum influences, which are specific factors that affect the development of the curriculum and decision-making in the micro level. This includes the external, internal, and organizational influences. So, those are the overview of the models in the curriculum development. Next, we have the processes for developing the curriculum. There are 7 processes of developing a curriculum. First, we have situational analysis that includes a study of different curriculum sources that affect the curriculum development. Second is the selection of goals and objectives, which results from situational analysis. In some cases, if government or university prescribes the curriculum, in some cases, the government or the university prescribes the curriculum goals and objectives. The third one is the development of curriculum standards. This takes place after the situational analysis and selection of goals and objectives. The fourth one is the selection of content or subject areas, where the developed curriculum standards are used to select subjects or courses to be included in the curriculum. Next is the selection and organization of learning experiences. That includes selecting learning activities, organizing instructional plans, and selecting instructional materials to be used in implementing the curriculum. The sixth one is implementation. This involves the actual implementation of the curriculum by faculty members or the teachers. It is where the actual teaching and learning take place. And the last one is evaluation, where the goals and objectives of the curriculum, including the design and selection of all the curriculum elements, are evaluated. So those are the processes that are involved in the development of the curriculum. So thank you for watching. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you want to have a copy of the file presented, please go to the description box and click the link. And please like and subscribe. Thank you and God bless.